Hi, this video is going to be about Lucifer, and it's going to be looking at and addressing some of the myths around Lucifer, some of the aspects of this energy, and what you would potentially work with Lucifer for and what you wouldn't work with him for. So the big thing to get out of the way straight away, the sort of elephant in the room with Lucifer, is the largely Christian mythology of him being the fallen angel, the Antichrist, the Satan, if you want to use that name. Is any of that true? And from my experience and my knowledge, no, none of it is true. Lucifer was not in any of the original biblical texts, and this really comes from a poor translation from, I think, around the 4th century that then just stuck. A mistranslation of a Hebrew word, and it was taken as Lucifer, and here we are now with this fallen angel mythology. None of it's true at all. Lucifer literally translates, it's a Latin word, and literally translates to light bearer or light bringer. And this comes from the Roman pantheon, where Lucifer was worshipped as the morning star, represented by the planet Venus. He was the element of air. There was no there was nothing evil, demonic, or any sort of negative aspect of working with Lucifer until it was put through the Christian mythology, unfortunately. So, as I mentioned, Lucifer is the element of air, and when we think of air within magic, that is often represented by thoughts and mind. So from my experience, Lucifer is really good to work with for things like blockages, particularly mental blockages, things from the past that you can't let go of, fears of moving forward in some aspects, all of those things that really hold us back, metaphorically hold us back from the light. So if you are going to work with Lucifer, those are the kinds of things that you would work with him for. He can be challenging to work with for some people, but challenging in a way that is good for you. Almost like a fatherly kind of figure. So if you imagine tough love, where if you're lying to yourself, if you're making excuses, if you're holding yourself back, then working with Lucifer is almost having a mirror put up to your face where you can't do that. And that can be painful because, and I include myself in this at times, we all lie to ourselves. We all don't do things that we should do, or do things that we shouldn't do in some aspects as well. And then we make excuses, we justify it, we, particularly in modern times, sit playing on our phone for an hour instead of working, and right up to bigger things of self-sabotaging because you don't feel that you deserve certain things. Well, you do, and you should, and that's where Lucifer comes in with assisting you with this. But it isn't particularly easy. It will push you, but the end goal is you moving forward. So if you are going to work with him, I would suggest keeping a journal. Every time you work with him, every time you meditate, every time you have contact, write down exactly what happens. Write down in as much detail as possible, thoughts, messages. Write down your own progress as well, daily if you can. And for me, when I got to about a 6-month point, give or take, I went back and looked at where I'd started to where I'd come, and the progression had been absolutely fantastic. So I suggest doing that because for me it didn't feel like I had made as much progress as what I thought I had, but when I actually looked back, I'd made huge amounts of progress in certain aspects of my life. Lucifer is not really a spirit to work with for asking for things, material things. So, for example, one of the things that everybody wants, more money or more abundance in their life. That would be for, say, mammon, but mammon wouldn't be good for doing path work or shadow work or mental progression, moving out of your box, that kind of thing. So they all have certain aspects that work and don't work for certain circumstances. One other thing to address with Lucifer, trying not to be negative, it's just kind of a slight warning, and this applies really for working with any spirit. They are not, as other people have said many times, they're not vending machines. You don't put some money in and then out comes what you want. It's never as straightforward as that. It always requires work, it requires sacrifice. That sacrifice could be getting off your backside and working as hard as possible instead of doing things with your friends or your partner, that kind of thing. That would be a sacrifice. There's always a sacrifice so that you can get to the goal that you have. So it's really down to how much work you're going to put in, how much effort, what your mentality is, how dedicated you are to yourself. So I just thought I'd mention that because I've worked with clients in the past that have come back to me and said, this didn't work, it doesn't work, it's impossible. Well, what have you actually done? What have you actually done to better yourself day to day? Even if it's 10 minutes, what work have you done? You've done none. You've sat at home, done nothing, and then complained that nothing has changed. Well, what do you expect is kind of my response. But in saying that, I'll repeat again, Lucifer is absolutely fantastic to work with, and has really helped me, has changed aspects of my life, and I'm very grateful for that experience, and I feel a very strong bond that I'm very grateful for. In terms of how Lucifer communicates or appears to me, it's mainly through energy and vision. And what I mean by that is I can feel the energy around me. For me, the energy of Lucifer is very recognizable and very unique. In terms of visualization, I've never seen him with the angel wings. He does at times feel slightly feminine, which really caught me off guard at first. And I know that some people have actually seen him as a full feminine form. And I think that is possibly down to where you are, particularly with any work, any self-work that you're doing. I think that could be quite unique as to where you are within that process as to how Lucifer can present himself. But in general, for me, it's a male figure, and a lot of golden, almost like a sandstorm, but it's actual sort of golden energy around him. It's very difficult to describe because it's so conceptual, but that's how I experience Lucifer. So I hope that helps, and I hope you found some of this interesting. And again, if you have different experiences, I'd like you to share them. If you disagree with me, I'd happily like you to share that as well. And if you'd like to subscribe, please do so.